What up, though? This is your boy Mike D, host of Wrestling from the 313, and I am back. I had to take a little week vacation, but I'm here for another good episode of Wrestling from the 313. Before we get started, this episode and every episode going forward is brought to you by WSN, the Wrestling Network, Wrestling Society Network. Make sure you download their app on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire Stick. Shout out to Brady, Professor Bear, and everybody at the over there at WSN. My guest today is one of the members of the 13 Cars Subject to Change podcast. I got Zach on the show today, coming on for the first time. Zach, what up, though? How you doing?
How we doing, Mike?
Good. So getting things started, you being the young wrestling fan, when did you become a wrestling fan, and who were some of your favorites growing up?
Well, it's really funny. So I always say on our show, there's like two iterations of my wrestling viewership. I was a little kid growing up, and you flip through the channels. That's how old I am. I still had to flip through the damn channels. You couldn't just pick one and stay there for like 2 hours. And obviously, you would get WCW coming through. You would get WWF back in the day. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that anymore, but I guess that lawsuit's long since settled, I guess. Right. And, you saw the big stars. But really, when I started watching consistently was actually the night that they started to break up Los Guerreros.
Oh, wow.
So that was the night that Eddie came out with the law.
I think we just had a freeze.
On chair. Okay. Yeah. So, and then since then, it's just been full time, every week catching it as best I can. Obviously, stuff changed over the years with streaming and everything. But yeah, I mean, it was cable every week. And we'll start right there. I mean, how do you not love Eddie? I mean, definitely. That's your introduction to full time. And just, I'll be honest with you, I didn't even know Raw existed still at that point. Yeah. Until like they started doing the recaps, and then I was able to watch on Mondays. But since SmackDown at that point was Paul Heyman's SmackDown on Thursdays, it was a little later in the week, so I was allowed to stay up a little later. It's just strict curfew in my house. Mom did not play on that. But I mean, you had Eddie. It was right before the saga with Brock. Brock was local. One thing about being a Midwesterner, when you hear about any sports star that's like local to your area, you start following those guys. Ray was sort of just starting to come up on SmackDown as well. So, I mean, really, it was those guys. I mean, it was Paul Heyman's SmackDown was really the big, like, following for me, where, like, I really started to get back into, the history of everything. Because at the time, as everyone remembers, Paul was just, he was firing on all cylinders. Oh God, those SmackDowns, like, they felt so different.
Yeah.
At that point in time, it's like it was like mid Ruthless Aggression era, and like Paul was just like every single Thursday, Paul was just gripping you with something, and like honestly, that whole roster up and down. The cruiserweights were fun. The heavyweight division was fun. And, obviously Paul cares about tag team wrestling. So, I mean, they had some really good tag teams on SmackDown at that point in time.
Yeah, definitely. And I can definitely agree with you. I was born around that time when we was flipping channels on the TV too. But those were the good old days. And those were the times when cartoons used to come on early in the morning. And when all the cartoons would go off, WWE come on at 11 or 12. And then you had Saturday night's main event that was like the Monday Night Raw before it was a Monday Night Raw. And I've seen wrestling evolve from the 80s up until now. My favorite era, I would have to say, would be the Monday Night Wars. Just flipping the channel every 5-10 minutes, and then it just got to a point. Okay, you watch the first hour of this show, then you watch the first 2 hours of Nitro, because Nitro was always like 3 hours because they wanted to come on at like 7 or 8 or something like that.
So you were a channel flipper. You didn't just stay with one side the whole time.
You know what? When I started, I did, but then when it was like WCW was getting good with the NWO, I stuck with the NWO. But periodically, I would flip to WWE. Then
It's
when
funny.
oh,
It's
go
funny
ahead.
because on our show we always talk about it. Leroy is always the WWE side of things, and then Jesse was kind of watching Nitro most of the time.
Yeah.
But like Jesse also grew up with WWE, so he would go back and look at the results because he lived in New York for all those years.
Oh, that's what's up. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then it was like I would switch. I kind of went back to WWE when WCW started falling off, when like around the Finger Poke of Doom, when Sting was joining the Wolf Pack, Lex Luger was joining the Wolf Pack, and David Arquette was winning the world title. That's when I think I was like, okay, I'm about to go to WWE. And that's when the Austin McMahon rivalry was really like catching fire. You had Austin and The Rock. So like, yeah, it was like a struggle, but it was like at one point I was watching WCW, and then at one time I was going to WWE. So that was just a good time.
I was talking about this on the show for a couple of weeks. People can go back and check this. So in my spare time, I was watching WCW Thunder from like start to finish.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And oh my God, you talk about when WCW was falling. I mean, everybody wants to talk about those Nitro things. Everything you just said, 100% valid. Like I will not defend any of it, but I need to do like a YouTube short thing of me watching those. Because let me tell you something. If you think that the stories of the backstage and everything that they were doing that was bad on Nitro, it was so much worse on Thunder. Like like
Oh
like
yeah,
nobody cared on Thunder. It was just, you want to talk about a forgotten show.
yeah,
Like, I don't care what anyone says. I've never seen a single episode, but the last season of Game of Thrones that everyone tells me was this just total letdown, it doesn't compare to what they were doing on Thunder.
yeah,
It doesn't come close. Like I don't think a wrestling promoter could have cared less about a show.
yeah. The
It was
only thing that came good out of Thunder was Booker T.
Oh, absolutely.
Booker T was the only person that was wrestling on Nitro and Thunder, and when he got the TV time, he got the best of it. You know what I'm saying? He was, before he became the world champ, he was the US champion, he was the television champion. He helped elevate both of those belts. And then it's messed up. Like when he finally got the title, that's when WCW was starting to fall off. So you really didn't get to see him have like a serious run. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and what's funny is you're leaving out probably one of the most important things in Booker's legacy that isn't really even him. He's the reason why Sting didn't make the jump.
Yeah, because it was
It was
when
his
Booker
debut.
T, when Booker T debuted, and The Rock was like, "Who are you?" Sting felt like that if he went there, that they might do the same thing to him.
Which I've always disagreed with, but I mean, Steve's a good guy and obviously loves Booker, obviously really respected him and everything, but you
Yeah,
know, I when you talk wrestling, especially with us on our show, we've really gotten to a point where we're able to say the devil's name of Vince McMahon without worrying about the current stuff, and we're trying to stick to the wrestling side of things.
yeah,
And for me, I think at that point, before he really went off the rails, I think the name was big enough where
yeah,
I think if Vince could have gotten that contract, I think you might have seen a different version of Steve. So
Mhm.
I mean, I get Steve's loyalty and hesitation, and obviously the business side of the fact that Turner owned that contract. It wasn't an asset
Yeah.
of WCW, which we actually recently on our show talked about what Vince bought it for, and I want to say it wasn't even $2.5 million for all of that.
Wow.
I like if I remember correctly, I believe the library was like 1.5 million, and then it might have been just under a million for the remaining assets. That's how much Turner executives just wanted it gone. Like that's like that. Like people look that up. You can actually look up how much he paid for it, and it's I mean it was one night pay-per-view numbers for them at that point was all it took to pay for. You think of the legacy of WCW. We talk about it. We all do. We all remember everybody. Not even $3.5 million.
That's crazy. So real quick, just let's just say if WWE never bought WCW, let's say Eric Bischoff found a way to buy WCW, do you think they would? Do you think they'd still be around now, or do you think eventually they still would have faded off?
Well, so I don't know. I don't know if everyone remembers, but Eric wrote a book a number of years ago called "Controversy Creates Cash."
Yeah,
And what was interesting was Jesse recently on our show said he was hesitant to read it because Vince WWEized everything.
yeah,
It's like I mean every time you hear Hogan talk, you're just like, okay, like what story now? But
right.
Jesse even said when he read it, because I borrowed him the book, he even said that Eric was probably as honest in that book as you could have been.
Yeah, yeah,
And so, my apologies. And so Eric has a chapter about he was ready to buy it. He wanted to buy it. He was actually getting people together to
yeah,
make a bid.
yeah,
But at that point, Turner executives just like it's always funny. You think people with billions of dollars would just chill, relax, whatever.
mm-hmm.
But and it's interesting because this name invokes way too much in the world. But Jim Cornette talks about it. These people disliked wrestling so much they didn't even sell it to the wrestling people. They sold it to the guy who I guess wanted to do wrestling or entertainment version of wrestling, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah,
So like I don't know what Eric would have done because Eric has also talked about at that point they were so not gathering the audience that they needed or had.
yeah,
And when you think about it, that was the peak Vince McMahon like brain trust. That like at that point he was listening to the right people. He was the genius that he was. And we all a lot of people don't share this opinion that like we do. If you look at the Attitude Era and you remove like 6 names, we're talking Austin, Rock, Kane, Undertaker, Triple H, Mankind. Take those guys out.
mm-hmm.
Not that good of an era. Because if you think about the Attitude Era, what are like the same 8 highlights everyone talks about?
The Hell
I'm,
in the Cell.
I'm a music guy, okay?
Right.
I get a lot of flack for this, but my friends are Linkin Park fans. Every single time I talk to them about Linkin Park, it's the first 2 records. Now, they're legendary.
Yeah,
They're amazing records. Diamond Records, 10 million apiece. They like they did that.
mm-hmm.
What can you name after that?
I'm trying to think because I know a couple of Linkin Park songs.
You can name the Transformers song, and that's it.
No, but then you got um Numb.
That
You got that
nope.
song Faint.
That's first two records. That's the
Um
first two records.
I'm trying to think because I like those. I like that Transformers song. And then I know they did another one for Transformers too.
Yep. Yep.
And they got that what's that one song? Closer to the Edge and I'm about to break or something
Yep.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, they got a couple of hits. They
Yeah.
got a couple of hits.
But again, we've got some hits. Eddie Guerrero came out of that mid card. A lot of your fun, entertaining guys came out of the mid card. But we always say this line on our show: if you really want to break down the Attitude Era booking, it comes down to choppa choppa to PP, and we all know what I'm talking about. But no, so like just to wrap it up, I think even Eric, I I think he knew that it was done. I think that he knew that in television, because Jesse always says, Eric, I would hire him in a heartbeat to do my TV. I don't know what I'd give him in terms of wrestling. I don't know who I would give him in terms of friends because he's still a big friend of Terry Bollea, Mr. Hogan over there. But I don't know what he could have done to get on TV.
Yeah.
I mean, throughout the history of wrestling, and if you can get past his old Southern stubbornness, when Jim does talk on his show and he's not reviewing Raw, SmackDown, or Dynamite or Collision, and he talks about the history of wrestling, it's always about TV.
Yeah.
And it's whether are you allowed to do TV? What when can you do TV? Prime slot, but it's about television. And Vince McMahon, who never wanted to be in the wrestling business, hated his father being in the wrestling business. He wanted to make a TV show. And ultimately, I think that's why he survived forever.
Yeah.
That's why they got all that they wanted out of it, was because at the end of the day, we all love wrestling, and like I work for and know a ton of indie guys, like just here in Minnesota alone, and a couple of guys up in your area that come through there. You might know some of their names on the local scene because they're through here all the time. It's it's all about TV,
Yeah.
and it's like I could Eric have gotten on Turner? Who knows? Ted was so removed. We all know that Paul said at the end of the was it the Rise and Fall or the Death of WCW was the name of the DVD? One of the two.
I think it was the Rise and Fall. I'm not.
Okay, yeah. He says at the end, if they could have gotten on another network in time, everybody would be working for Vince McMahon or Paul Heyman. But he couldn't get on television.
Wow.
And, I'll wrap this up with one more story. Do you remember WWE bringing back ECW on Sci-Fi?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, for anyone who hasn't seen the documentary, that was supposed to be a streaming television show.
Yeah, and I think Shane was supposed to run that or something like that, and it was
Shane wasn't supposed to run it. He wanted Paul to run it, but Shane wanted it to be the alternative to his dad buying the UFC.
Okay.
Is what it really turned into. But the problem was they created so much hype with One Night Stand that TV networks wanted it. They wanted the hype. And Vince had to get involved because Vince's name in television is like, the Pope's name in Italy. Like, I mean, seriously, he walks in a room, and I've heard stories of TV executives who are just like, I don't know what he does. I've never watched wrestling, but I just give this guy all the money in the world. Really, I don't know if anything would have survived because, especially in that period, we didn't have an AEW. We didn't have Tony. We didn't have a billionaire wanting to get in the wrestling business. We had one guy who wanted to continue on the legacy that he had purchased from his dad. And
Yeah.
then you had top TV executives worth tens of billions of dollars who, like, because they literally burn $100 bills for lunch, they were just like, we don't care. It doesn't matter how much money we can make off this. So to your answer your question, I think we'd still be here. I don't think anyone ever had a shot.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards too. Even if I think that even if Bischoff was able to buy WCW, I think in a couple of years, right around the time when WWE sold, no, I would say maybe a couple of years after they were bought. If Bischoff would have bought WCW around the time Vince did, I think maybe like within maybe 2 or 3 years, they probably would have faded out. Especially if they didn't have a good network to go to, because I think Turner was done with wrestling. Once AO Time Warner had bought Turner, they were done with wrestling. So that's my opinion. I think we both agree that we'd probably still be here, like you said. You know what I'm saying? And then, like you said, no billionaire owner, nobody to come in and invest. TNA was around, but TNA was like still, trying to work their way on up. So
I
yeah,
don't know what they were on with you guys out there, but we had a channel called Fox Sports North.
yeah, we had Fox Sports Detroit and TNA.
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah. Okay. So that was the local Midwest deal then. But yeah, no. So like, I used to get home at like 3 o'clock.
Yup, it used to come on at like 4 o'clock here.
Yep. And so I just got home and I turned it on, and that was Abyss, AJ, Chris, all those guys. And that was an alternative, but the time slot wasn't great.
Yeah,
But it was also what Jeff could get at the time.
yup,
I
yup.
mean, wrestling is about timing. It's about what you can get. And, for everything that I've said on my show about Tony Khan, and for everything that I feel about him and his business acumen or whatever, it really does help when your father can go to a major network and say, oh no, there's money behind it. And you own an NFL team, and it's really easy to look at Turner, especially when Tony had a friend working at Turner at the time. And really, when you think about it, middle of the week Wednesday, why was there no wrestling for the longest time? Because nobody was watching TV middle of the week.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you could get a bunch of people to tune in at a time when there was no competition at the time, would it work? And obviously they blew out everybody out of the water with that first show.
Yeah, yeah,
And but yeah, I mean, obviously not to get too off topic there, but like, I mean, really, it's timing, it's TV, and really it's like you said, what television network was going to give this company that just bottomed out a shot? I mean,
yeah.
in American sports, your team has a bad year. Is that a Pistons hat? I just want to double check.
Pistons made the playoffs this season.
No, no, no,
Oh,
no. I just want to double check. But I mean, like, you guys were bottomed out for a couple of years, but then
oh
you
yeah,
get a nice pick like Cade. Love him, by the way. Wanted to steal him from you guys while you guys were down there a little bit, but you guys decided to hang on to him. So smart move on that one. But I mean, you get him in there, and all of a sudden you're must-watch TV, not just locally but nationally.
yeah,
It doesn't work like that in wrestling. No one hands you the opportunity to get better. And we love to watch dumpster fires get put out, and that just wasn't happening in wrestling. If that's a good analogy.
yeah. I definitely agree with you on that. So let's fast forward to now. You got the 13 cars subject to change podcast. How did that come about?
So I was talking with another buddy of mine about starting a sports podcast. And we had gotten together, we had gotten a plan written out, we had sort of this base idea. And just due to life and work and all these other kind of things, we both kind of, weren't able to do that. So I got a job working where Leroy works, and very quickly, as you well know, wrestling fans find out that wrestling fans are wrestling fans. I mean, it doesn't take more than like probably a week before it's like, okay, you and I can have these conversations and annoy all of our coworkers for 8 hours.
Right.
And so I told him I had this idea for a podcast to do wrestling. 3 days later, he goes, "Hey, so I bought this podcast equipment on Amazon." And I was like, "Okay, I guess we're doing this." So really, that's the honest to God true story. Was, oh, okay, let's go. Like let's just do this, I guess. And like it was probably not even a month later, I'm in his kitchen and we're recording what I call episode 0, which is like a 30-minute epilogue of like what we were gonna do and everything. So prologue, sorry, I'm being told by my wife / producer here that I gave the wrong word there. But anyway, yeah, no, so like yeah, so we just started it and then COVID hit. You know, what a time to start this thing and everything. Well, Leroy and I both worked at a place that was very safe. Nobody was getting sick. He trusted me around his 2 kids. And so I was driving over the bridge to Superior, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And we were just doing the show. And we were, you know, doing some decent numbers on Podomatic.com. And then all of a sudden, my buddy Jesse, I hit him up one day. Now, Jesse, I knew from just mutual friends and working in the music scene.
Okay.
Jesse, actually, crazy story. He opened for My Chemical Romance the first time they came through the Midwest. So, like, way, way back.
That's what's up.
So, like, Jesse's had a big footprint in the music scene around here, and I knew him from there. And we got to talking wrestling, and like we remembered that we were both big wrestling fans. So I invited him on the show, and it was such a instant good chemistry that he was just on every single week over and over until finally I just live on the air. We went live. This was probably 3 months in. And I just said, I'd like to welcome Jesse as an official member. And like, he didn't know about it. I kind of just threw it out there.
Yeah.
But we had become so close, all 3 of us. We had been doing stuff together. We had taken him to a couple of shows, you know, down in the mid, you know, the cities area for Midwest All-Star Wrestling. And Jesse just, like, he got that kid aspect back in him, you know? I mean, like, he started to not only feel like what he saw at Madison Square Garden getting into the shows, because his dad's a retired New York City police officer, so they used to do security for MSG.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we brought him on, and it's been full bore since then, and we've gotten so many opportunities since Jesse's been on. And you know, Jesse, I've known him forever. He's such a go-getter, and he's such a, you know, head down, I'm gonna make something work kind of guy, that all of a sudden, I mean, the rest, I guess, is a very short 4.5, 3-year history that is just where we are now. And I wouldn't do this with anybody other than those 2 guys. I wouldn't.
That's what's up. Shout out to Jesse and Leroy, the other members of 13 Cars Subject to Change, and make sure you guys check them out. You guys come on Sundays, right?
So we record live on Sundays. We are now live on YouTube.
Okay.
During the recording, all the episodes are on Patreon, available for only $1 a month.
Okay.
All the episodes are available on Patreon on day after, unless we have technical issues. And then Wednesday, they're up on Spotify, Apple Music, all those places, everywhere else you can find them. And then now with the YouTube aspect, we are live for about 20 minutes after the show on YouTube, answering questions that people throw in the live. Okay. So, and also, if people like send us questions during the week, that's where we'll be answering those as well.
Sweet. So is it, I know you guys have your show on Patreon. Is it any other things that you guys do exclusively that you talk about on Patreon, but maybe not on YouTube or Facebook?
So not right now. Jesse is going to be starting up here soon what he calls Jay's Take,
Okay.
which was a non-wrestling thing where he just kind of talks world events, sports, uh, happenings, all that kind of stuff. That's been a very start-stop project that is going to be more YouTube-based, but under the same YouTube page at some point. YouTube is also where you can find our interviews with local guys. It all started really with a guy named Darren Corbin, who's been through just everywhere. He's like a 18-year veteran of the game. He gave us an interview years and years and years ago, and we've been able to just have so much fun with him over the years. Leroy gets physically assaulted on camera, which is fun, you know. But anyway, so yeah, all our interviews are there. We are going to start branching out to another sports show with a buddy of mine who hasn't come in yet. But again, it's all timing and it's all rhythm and it's all about just having the ability to get everyone in a room for 3 hours.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Real quick, we got 2 comments from Crander Q. The first one, he said Crander Q is in the number 1 beard in pro wrestling, self-proclaimed, aka my real name, and he also put Darren Corbin is God. Shout out to Crander Q, friends of the Square Circle, and Darren Corbin. So now let's get into some wrestling. Of course, Night of Champions is this Saturday. Lot of controversy with
from London, correct?
Huh?
Did they officially? Now that's from London now, isn't it? Or is that?
No, that's the show that's in Saudi Arabia.
I had read they moved it.
Oh,
but
I'm gonna have to look that up.
I could be wrong about that.
But yes, they from what I've been hearing, that they still are gonna have the show in Saudi Arabia. That's gonna be my first question to start this off. With the strikes that happened over the weekend in Iran, should the WWE even be thinking about sending their superstars or even anybody affiliated with WWE over to the Middle East right now?
Well, I think the obvious answer to anyone with, any form of morals would be no. But at the same time, it's a really difficult thing to understand that in that part of the world, Saudi Arabia is like one of those there's a lot of money in that part of the world, but they're very much sort of top of the pyramid in that area. So I don't personally, from my perspective, think that you would see Iran doing anything to Saudi Arabia specifically. Because also there's a factor in here that people are forgetting. The Saudis are paying a lot of money for this show.
Yeah.
Now I know that the prince has unlimited funds, all those things, but But I think you and I can both relate. If you're going to cost me $50 million, we're going to have a problem. Money is money in this day and age. And then I think there's the problem with, it's really interesting. I've watched every Saudi Arabian show, even when everybody had all the controversy of like the blood money and this and that and all that stuff. As somebody who has gotten back in touch with the fans, going to all these indie shows and watching kids who are 8-9 years old try to climb over my back to attack a heel. That's happened multiple times, by the way, when I work security. I've literally had 3 small children trying to get over me. But anyway, I don't think that's fair to the people of Saudi Arabia. They're real fans. Like when you go over there, they're not like American crowds. They're not trying to become the center of attention. We all remember the famous Raw after WrestleMania, the Izod crowd, Izod Center.
Yeah.
And I think everyone's been trying to be that crowd again. And when you go to Saudi Arabia, you watch, they're just enjoying the show.
Yeah.
So, from a political and just social aspect, yes, it's probably not the best idea. But most of these shows have always been voluntary anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize. Like, they treat it like they did tribute to the troops during the Iraqi war. If you don't want to go, we'll just write you off for a week.
Yeah.
But it's also hard to turn down the fact that those shows are not written into people's contracts. Everybody gave WWE crap for Natalya was there with against Rhea, and it was like a 90-second squash.
Yeah.
But do you not realize that Natty probably made 7 figures for that 90 seconds?
Yeah. Hey, all of them probably made some good money that night.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, exactly. So I mean, there's no simple answer to me, but I feel like everyone's gonna say that it's a simple answer because everybody wants to, be the PG correctness of it,
Yeah.
and that's fair. I mean, everyone's allowed their opinion. I have no problem with that. But for me, I mean, I feel like Saudi Arabia has shown that they are willing to protect people, host them, treat them as special guests, and I think it's safer than people think. For what that's worth. I mean, obviously never been there, but I feel like they'd be okay. I feel like the show can go on and everything would be okay.
Yeah.
So, but obviously, I mean, like I said, there's no simple answer to that.
Gotcha. Real quick, we got a couple of comments. The Wrestling Collection Connection, Crander Q sent them over to watch the show. Shout out to you guys. And also we got a comment from Sisterhood of the Square Circle saying hi. What up to you guys over there? Make sure you check out their podcast also on YouTube. So let's talk about the John Cena CM Punk match. Of course, John Cena had this big pipe bomb promo that he did Friday night. CM Punk is, they both have been going at it, having words. Truth has been in the mix. What are your thoughts on this match, and who do you think is going to win?
So we were talking about this, and Jesse was convinced, like absolutely convinced, this was a SummerSlam match. He was always hell bent. He never questioned it. SummerSlam was Punk Cena. They moved it up or whatever. I mean, this is their plan. And I think John comes out of it as the winner because I think with what happened, I agree with Jesse on our show. I think Cody's the guy to take it off.
Yeah.
I think that John's going to give it back. I think he also has to because of what happened at Mania, which I blame someone, but he's in Hawaii right now filming a movie. So we'll, if you'd like to get to him, we can, but we'll put a pin in that for now. I've said my piece on that many times. But I think that this match is 14 years in the making because I think this match has more to do with Punk's situation before he re-signed and before he and John had their one-off when he came back. I mean, I think what was so cool and unique was it was 14 years and like 5 days difference between when Punk did his promo and when John did his promo.
Yeah.
And I just think it was such unique timing and also very brilliant to sit there and be like, for whatever you feel about Phillip Brooks, CM Punk as a person, he's always wanted to do the right thing, and that's a controversial topic that we can always debate at another time. I mean, we all know where that came from. But for me, that guy doesn't take this business personally. And I think when you look at the careers that they've had, Punk being the wrestler, John being the entertainer, was there anything more brilliant based on their story than John just literally ripping off who many said was the best wrestler?
Yeah.
Was there any more just absolutely brilliant move? And, Punk will always throw jabs. John will always throw jabs. And what's really unique is if you look at the history of John Cena, and this is kind of what killed him in the end there, he always gets the last word in.
Yeah.
That's always been John's thing. What sold John Cena for years was you knew he was going to win because of what he said in the last face-off. So this is the one guy that when they spoke, it didn't matter that John went last.
Yeah.
You had people believing, even in the Vince McMahon trained audience, that's my guy. Phillip Brooks was my guy.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've got John only because I think you've teased Punk and Cody enough. And I think that there's nothing you can do about Punk is going to be the good guy in that situation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've got an opportunity for Punk to garner more sympathy, which is how you build a good guy. And, Cody could, as we've all guessed, he could screw Randy, finish that up, take the title from John, and, could that be heel versus heel? Would that work? I think so. Because I think everybody needs a better ending than WrestleMania, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. WrestleMania, the ending to that match was bad. Like, it was real bad.
And honest to God, let me ask you this, if you don't mind. Let me hijack this for a second. Like, let me ask you, man, would you have cared as much if even after all of that, they just threw the Travis Scott thing out the window and they just forgot about Dwayne and John and him just ended on the note that they ended on, but there was no random walk down from Travis Scott? I mean, I ask myself that all the time. Do you think that was the only issue? I mean, obviously we needed Dwayne to be there.
Yeah, I think that was the issue because a lot of people thought that The Rock was going to have some type of impact or he was going to come out and do something, or it was even rumored that these three was going to be some type of faction or whatever. But with him just not coming out and them not even acknowledging why he wasn't there or hasn't been around. But I will give John Cena props when he was breaking down his whole plan, that one promo he did on SmackDown. I kind of feel like he kind of explained why he joined The Rock. Since The Rock isn't around now, he kind of made it seem like he was using him or it was all part of his plan to turn the heel. So I think I'll give them props a little bit on that with him explaining that, because it was like after he turned heel, it was just, okay, where does The Rock fit into this at?
Yeah, and it's interesting for me. I still think though, where John used to be able to save it as Super Cena,
Yeah.
I don't think he can do that anymore because I don't think that the fan wants that.
Yeah.
One thing I give credit to AEW for, which is weird for me to give them credit, but I do more than people think. I want to make that very clear. I think that they brought a real fan back to wrestling
Yeah.
as a whole. And now you have such a large group of people watching everything, and they want certain things to be handled in the ring. If I mean it kind of just comes down to that, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that Cody and Cena probably have one more. And regardless of how that ends or regardless of the story that's told, I think people just want to see it end with a non-anticlimactic build, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree with you.
So, I mean, I think that Punk is actually building for after the Cena match more so than the Cena match,
Yeah.
in my opinion. But it is still the match that I think was always going to happen, even before Dwayne got involved with Cena's retirement. I think it was always in pencil. Okay, John has to do this match
Yeah.
because we all I said earlier, we all remember that when Punk came back, they had a match.
Yeah.
He and Punk kind of finished this.
Yeah.
But in typical wrestling fashion, shout out to Daniel Bryan, we are fickle. In typical wrestling fashion, we were WWEized in the brain, the Men in Black thing. We forgot that Punk fizzled out.
Yeah.
When they show the video highlights, there's no highlight of Punk at the Rumble. There's no highlight of Punk and Kane going back and forth for like 2.5 months. Punk walked out in that moment.
Yeah, you're
That's
right.
that's the story that they're telling us.
Yeah.
And then 14 years goes by, and now he's just back. So like, I mean, I I like the build, but I still don't think that Punk is just going to take it off him.
Nah. I don't think so.
Because I think you gotta restore. Because again, we all know John's gone, so you have to restore credibility back to Cody because he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. So do you could you see a possible Seth Rollins cash in on John Cena? Because I mean, of course, I know he could cash in on Gunther or uh, Cena, but do you see him leaning more towards Cena or more towards Gunther?
I think that Seth is easily, and I'll start with this, and then I'll explain what I'm trying to get at here. He is easily the Shawn Michaels of our era.
Yeah, I agree.
And if you remember, the Shawn Michaels that is now in our midst, in our minds, is the second run when he came back from the back injury.
Yeah,
And the WWE title was never associated with that version of Shawn Michaels. I don't think that Seth cares about the WWE Undisputed Championship. I think that Seth, like Triple H, views his group as I'm the world champion.
yeah.
So my literal words are more important than history.
Mm-hmm.
That's the architect of Seth Rollins. My dad used to work for a firm, and he always used to tell me, architects want to make the world beautiful, engineers tell them why they can't. And Seth is trying to create his own image.
Yeah,
And to him, he doesn't need the WWE title for that. So I think Seth is going to focus more on Gunther. So I would love to see something crazy go down. Hey, I said it on our show when it comes to Naomi. Who doesn't love a cash in? No matter how long they've had the case, no matter how boring the show is, who doesn't love a cash in?
We're going to get into it later on when I think Seth Rollins is going to cash in.
Okay,
We'll
yeah.
talk about that a little later. But
Yeah.
let's talk about one of the finals. Of course, you know, the King and the Queen of the Ring finals will be at Night of Champions. First, let's talk about the Queen of the Ring, Jade Cargill versus Asuka. What's your thoughts on this match and who you think is going to win?
So I want to preface this. Jade Cargill, that's my girl. Okay. I want everyone to know I have always been a fan of Jade. I think that she has had everything you need in this whole business. But when she was in the other company, there wasn't a way to get her to what she wanted to do in this business. You know, I don't have a problem with Jade not wanting to be a Ric Flair. I don't have a problem with not wanting to be a Mae Young and like wrestle like the guys and like be the very best technician. I don't have a problem with that. I think she wanted to be an entertainer. I think she wanted to use this platform to be an entertainer and be famous, and that's okay. And I always said she didn't fit the mold of all elite wrestling. And I think that the way that she left was very painful to me as a fan because she went 60-0 and then got beat in not 3 minutes, not 3 hours. She lost in 3 moves to Chris Statlander on a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
That, by the way, we had to wait a year for Chris to get her knee cleared. I just want to point that out.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because she had an ACL tear or something like that.
Yeah. I'm very. Jade was my rookie of the year on our show. I love Jade. I always loved Jade, but I think Jesse, my boy, is going to get his wish, and Triple H is just going to let these 2 Japanese women beat the hell out of each other for 20 minutes.
Yeah. Because I just can't see, and it's nothing against Jade. I just can't see Jade losing to Asuka. Not at this, not right now. You know what I'm saying? I know Jade is still kind of like establishing herself. Well, she is established, you know, but Asuka's a legend, you know, and yeah, I just can't see that right now.
I don't know. The one thing that Triple H has tried so hard to protect since he got the book, the one thing that Vince never screwed up, except for losing to Charlotte at WrestleMania, whatever, it's still Charlotte. It's a Hall of Famer right there. You can't poo-poo that.
Right.
He believes in Asuka.
Yeah.
I don't have a source on this, but I have a feeling if she doesn't get hurt, I think she was going to bring the NXT Women's title to the main roster. I think she was going to be the first crossover person to go over there with that title. And if I remember, I always forget. Did Paige? I don't think Paige was the champ when she came up. I don't think she was the NXT Women's Champion.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah. So like, it's like it's interesting to me, but it's the only NXT talent Vince couldn't screw up.
Yeah.
It's the only NXT talent. I've always said there are 2 people, a male and a female, in this business that get over cold. And for anyone out there who's not maybe as wrestling inclined, cold being you're going to love them night 1. They don't need a build. They don't need a package, nothing. They're just going to show up and show out.
Yeah.
My male is Jacob Fatu because
Yeah.
because Jacob Fatu was the only good thing about MLW for like a year.
Yeah, I heard he was. I heard he was a big star in the MLW.
For those of you that don't know, the reason why Jacob Fatu was signed for so long but never debuted on TV was because he was going to lose 40 pounds, but he's doing the same move set. Go watch those MLW things. Him, Alexander Hammerstone, same matches Jacob's having now, 40 pounds heavier.
Wow.
I want you to picture Jacob Fatu, everything he does right now. Now I want you to picture that Umaga's doing it.
Ooh.
That was Jacob in MLW.
Hey, yeah. And
Everything Jacob Fatu does in WWE, he's jacked.
yeah,
But he wasn't in MLW, but he was doing the same matches. It was insanity.
I'm gonna go ahead and say that, and I know it's not 2026 yet, but he's one of my early favorites to win the Royal Rumble. Jacob Fatu.
Jacob is going to be shot to the moon. I know it's on this card, so I'll save my Jacob Fatu thoughts for when we get to him in solo. But back to my point, and the woman is Asuka.
Yeah.
Because Asuka, when she was in Japan, she got respect from Minoru Suzuki.
Okay.
She didn't let, because Minoru does what Minoru wants to do. Shout out to Minoru-san. But he beat her up in the middle of the ring so bad to the point where the referee was kind of confused if this was a shoot or not. And like, she has always, there is something about her that when she goes anywhere, the crowd just cannot help but just want to see more of her.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Vince could have screwed that up.
Yeah.
I don't, it's like, did I think that Vince got a little bit racist with the Kabuki Warrior thing? A little bit? Maybe.
Yeah.
But did you ever not hear the crowd love it when she was in the ring?
Yeah.
So I think that Triple H knows what he has in her. She's been off. She's been hurt. She's never had a lull in fandom. And I think that if you're Jade, it's hard to shoot someone to the moon when there's a great one still sitting there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why it's like I can't put Jade. I can't put Jade over Asuka. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I'm a fan of both of them. But Asuka's that deal. You know what I'm saying? Just since she been in WWE, she had that run in NXT. She was undefeated going into the main roster. She's basically won every women's championship except for the mid-card titles. And yeah, she's done it all. So I think her being Queen of the Ring, I think she deserves it. And I think that would be box office at SummerSlam. Asuka versus Io. Yeah, I'm with it.
I'm going to warn all of your viewers, though, don't blink in that match. I'm not joking. You think they're older? And Asuka's damn near 40-something.
Yeah.
They're not going to slow down.
Nah.
They're going to put on a stardom match. This is going to be Japanese women's wrestling.
Yeah.
And it's going to hurt.
I definitely agree. And I think that this might be one of the matches of the year too.
Oh God. Just give me Asuka, Io, and give me it twice on Sunday.
I feel you on that. So let's talk about the King of the Ring finals. Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes. I kind of saw this happening because you've seen in the past Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes not necessarily have had face-offs, but Randy has told him, like, look, if I got to get through you to get to number 15, that's what I'm going to do. And, of course, the history they've had, they were in the faction legacy together, stuff like that. What are your thoughts on this match, and who do you think is going to win?
Like I said, I think that Cody, he got his break. He's been doing his own show. It's a good show, by the way. Um, I think that Randy at this point is such a rare thing, and it's because of who his mentors are. Randy Orton is a 14-time world champion, which means he's lost 14 times. And I think that Randy, even though I think Randy is just one of the most perfect superstars ever in this sport. Any era, that guy is just a star. But I think Randy is giving back. I think this is his giving back phase. And I think that Randy is in the category of I'll take the title if there's literally no other option.
Yeah, definitely.
I will be the guy to carry, not because I want to, not because I need to. I think I'll do it if I have to.
Yeah.
Now he'll put his full effort into it. He's Randy freaking Orton.
Yeah.
But I just Cody is in his, we'll talk about that, Goldberg era of it's just you can't beat the guy. Even with a legend, because I always say losses don't always hurt depending on who you mess with.
Yeah.
But I just right now, and sadly it's because of the WrestleMania blunder, Cody can't lose. Because Cody has to be the guy, good guy, bad guy, heel, face, whatever you want to say. He has to be the guy when John goes home again.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you could you see a possible could you see R-Truth somehow getting involved in this match? You know what? Why that's the scene that he's involved in the scene. Why I got mixed up.
Honestly, I don't think that's a bad take. I know that that's not what you meant to say, but
yeah.
I feel like Ron can do anything right now, and it will make sense.
Yeah.
We think that Ron is back to take on John.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen at some point. But I was there when Ron the Truth Killings was not just tag teaming with Pac-Man Jones and TNA. Look it up, people. That happened.
Yeah.
I saw Ron as the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. I watched it.
Yeah. Yo.
Ron has gained so much love and respect that he could jump in there.
Yeah.
And he could mess up the whole show. And I don't think anybody would care. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I know you wanted to put him in the Cena thing, and that's fine, but people got to understand Ron has not really said much about John.
Yeah.
He has said things about himself and the fans, and you all got me back. He's attacked John. He's having issues with John. But I don't think this Ron thing is like a short term, okay, we'll bring you back for like a year, give you a nice little I don't know, man. Yeah. Ron could mess up King of the Ring. I believe it.
You know what? Yeah, I feel like he's gonna get. I think he'll be at Night of Champions. I definitely see him maybe after the Cena Punk match, interfering in that, and then maybe if Cody, because I think Cody's gonna beat Randy Orton, and it's like you said, like Randy Orton doesn't need the belt right now. I mean, he's towards the end of his career like Cena is. And I think the only way I could see Orton being the champion right now is if WWE, let's just say Cena and Cody Rhodes both suffered injuries and they were going to be out for a long time. So they need somebody to put the title on. I think Randy would be perfect. And like you said, he'll play the role as Randy Orton. You know what I'm saying?
Well, because remember, for people that don't know, if they haven't seen his interview with Chris Van Vliet, that's why Edge was taken out of Judgment Day.
Yeah.
Was they needed a top face.
Yeah.
And so they had to turn him in order to make that credible.
Yeah. And then I was hearing too, the direction that they wanted to take the Judgment Day, Edge wasn't with it. He wasn't cool with it either.
So you know that's not entirely untrue.
Okay.
But Edge did say the reason why I was taken out of it when I was they needed a top guy.
Okay.
So he was definitely rejecting the spooky, superstitious stuff, but Vince was still in charge. Remember, I think that was probably actually going to happen, and the best thing that happened was that Edge had to go be the top guy again.
Yeah. We got a comment from Sisterhood of the Square Circle. They left a comment. She said, Randy better win.
Okay. All right.
Hey, we shall see. You know, Triple H is one of them guys that, you know, they get behind it. They get behind some of these stories, and he had twisted and changed it up in a heartbeat.
Well, I think that Hunter, as long as everybody else in the office just stays away and lets him do his thing, he's trying to give you what you want, but he also has to give you controversy. If you get everything you want, it gets boring after a while.
Yeah.
You know, I think that you have to experience heartache, experience sadness. All of that has to happen in order to enjoy the final product.
Definitely.
And with Hunter, man, he'll swerve you, but when you really think about it, how many times has he swerved you, and how many times has he just given you what you wanted? He just stretched it out a little bit.
Yeah. He's done that a lot of time.
Yeah.
We got two comments from the Samp and Chance podcast. He said Randy just had a shot. Talking about the shot he had at John Cena.
Yeah.
At Backlash.
Yeah.
Then he just dropped another one. Let me get to the comment. Hold on. Keep doing this, and the IWC makes it all about them.
Well, I mean, that's just going to happen. I mean, that's just going to happen all over the place every time because, hey, we're the IWC. Nobody hates wrestling more than wrestling fans.
The wrestling, man, some of these people, man, and you know what? It's cool that we all have our opinion, and you know, we got certain promotions people like, certain promotions people don't like, certain wrestlers they like, certain wrestlers they don't like. I just hope that the IWC just doesn't get as toxic as basketball. Like basketball conversations are so toxic now. It's just like, you don't want to talk about it because it's
it's funny that you say that because I'm here as a guy who, because my team is a dynasty in women's basketball. Shout out to the Lynx.
The Lynx, yeah.
Maya Moore is the greatest basketball player in the history of women's basketball. There is no comparison. I give her all the love and respect for what she chose to go do. But if she stays on the Lynx, they win 8 straight championships.
I agree.
You forget you would forget about Jordan, and I'm telling you that right now, and I mean that if she stays. But again, being here in Minnesota, again, a lot of love and respect for what she went to go do with herself with the civil rights stuff. I mean, like it's great. I always support Maya Moore, even when she was at UConn. But like, for me, I get labeled as a hater for a lot of wrong reasons for just trying to acknowledge that. Can she ball better than me? Yes, but Angel Reese can't win a game.
Yeah.
And what that relates to is, okay, we're trying to have a conversation, but now we got to make it about something else.
Yeah.
And in wrestling, our show is famous for we make you think we like AEW, but we always criticize them. Let me be clear. I know and actually have worked with a number of people on the roster. Dante and Darius Martin, Top Flight, were stars.
They from Minnesota.
They were stars in my hometown.
Yeah.
Of Duluth, Minnesota. Heavy on wrestling. Go look them up. They were stars here. We just had Dante on Discover Pro Wrestling. I want it to work down there. 110%. But I'm also, like you talked about with Ball, I'm going to give my honest opinion.
Yeah.
Now, whether that gets received in a proper way, whether people listen to that, I mean, that's up to the viewer,
Yeah. We got a comment from a member of 13 Cars Subject to Change. They are doing the greatest hits with Cena and Punk is up next, and then Cody again.
I don't know, and I'd have to check the group chat, but I don't know if that's from Jesse or Leroy, but that's normally a Jesse take, but Leroy is right on his heels with those. Hey, man, again, I know we're at your place. Go listen to our show. Leroy's been cooking the last couple of weeks. He's been having some great takes. It's been a lot of fun. But yeah, no, I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, I mean, I can hate on the Oklahoma City Thunder because they beat my team.
Yeah.
But I ain't gonna sit there and become one of these people that's gonna hate on these guys for winning. I mean, you won.
Yeah.
And like with the IWC, it's like, yeah, I see there from Sam and Chance, that the hating game gets the most views, but the other thing about it is that I think what also gets the most views is honesty.
Yeah.
And I think what you were getting at is that toxicity doesn't come from honesty. It comes from what you want the world to be versus what it is.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I always say with the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark debate, with wrestling debates, not to get too into it, but like, two people that look like you and me, 60 years ago, we're not having this conversation.
Yeah.
Now that's stupid. That's just weird.
Yeah.
But it's like the irony of the IWC, and we'll move on here in a second. I just want to finish this up.
Go ahead.
Y'all want something, and when you don't get it, you blame everybody else for it instead of just accepting it and watching the show.
Yeah.
So you want to hate on me and say just love wrestling? I watch Dynamite every single week. Every single week, I watch Dynamite multiple times, mind you. A, because I love wrestling, and B, because it is my thing to do for our show.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that to finish up the IWC thing, yes, we should all just enjoy wrestling. But please also have an opinion. But just remember that opinion doesn't change somebody's look to you or view of you. Like what their wrestling opinion is not their personality sometimes.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, because I yeah we I just don't want the wrestling conversations to get like basketball because it's just bad. And is I think the one thing that annoys me about basketball debates, and I'm in my 40s. I think that some of these old guys gotta let go of the old school. It's not coming back anymore. Jordan is not coming back. The bad boy Pistons are not coming back. Barkley, Ewing, all those guys are not coming back. Let's enjoy the guys that are playing. Yes, the rules have changed. Yes, it's not as aggressive. It is what it is.
But let's also remember, no offense to you guys, because I remember watching that finals, like 04 Pistons, when you guys upset
The Lakers.
everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody watched. Nobody watched to the level that the NBA wanted. That's
Yeah.
not a shot at you guys. You guys played it.
Right.
I mean, like, honest to God, if I were to ever teach basketball, I would show that finals.
Yeah.
Because honest to God, your whole team that year should be in the Hall of Fame. Whether you thought those guys were great individuals or not, together,
Mm-hmm.
that's a team that wins in any era, in my opinion, except for today,
Yeah.
because they can't do that anymore. But here's the other thing about wrestling, guys. They had to change everything because you weren't watching.
Yeah. That's true.
They like I don't care that the NBA is a flopping league now. What would you do if you were in that position?
Right.
If they're going to give it to you, take it.
Exactly.
Don't, you said something that I've been saying for years, and I'll say it right here. I don't think Michael Jordan is the GOAT. I do not.
Ooh, you about to have that flame.
And I am okay with it, but that is because I can look at the totality of a career and I can understand eras, but the eras can be compared. They can. Just because you don't want to do it, that's not my problem.
Yeah.
Like, okay, prime example. What is one thing Michael Jordan has over LeBron that is not 100% winning percentage in the finals? Defensive Player of the Year.
That's really the only thing.
But hold on. In my opinion, LeBron has a Defensive Player of the Year because it's on Marc Gasol's shelf. Because explain to me how the Defensive Player of the Year doesn't make first team All NBA defense.
You got a point.
The media was keeping that away from LeBron James.
Oh, so he couldn't match it with Jordan.
And I believe that till the day I die. I stand on that.
So real quick, who do you have your GOAT? Who do you think is the GOAT when it comes to
It's not a popular opinion, but I got to go with LeBron James because here's the thing for me. You talk about, championships. You talk about rings, all this stuff. You want to talk rings? Bill Russell's got 11. But there were 8 teams in the league. There were 8 teams. You were going to get somebody coming out of there with 7, 8 rings. It just mathematically was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan went to 6 finals, but everybody argues Jordan had the first super team.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan did the same thing LeBron did, but Jordan had a better GM.
Yeah.
LeBron James asked for Amari Stoudemire. You know what he got? Antoine Jameson. Not a bad player, but didn't fit the roster.
Yeah, I remember that. That was like, I think Jameson would probably play like maybe 1 or 2 more years after that.
Yeah.
Might have been his last year after that.
Yeah.
Because I think Shaq was on that team too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, let me ask you something. You're the best player in the world. Are you going to live in mediocrity? Are you going to be Mike Trout?
I get you.
It's funny. I said this, and we'll get back to wrestling, but like this all relates. I said this to a buddy of mine. I love baseball, okay? I would give so much to play center field in a baseball stadium for the whole summer. That is a dream. But I don't know if I could be a Colorado Rocky right now. I don't know if I can do
it. You know what? I don't think anybody could be a Rocky.
I don't know if I could, Mike, let me tell you something. I don't know if I could win 15 games out of 70 and be a happy man.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
At this point, I'll just be like, man, can I just end my season now? Because, like, we ain't going nowhere. We might not even win 30 games.
But that's my whole thing about wrestling. We, the IWC, we've become as bad as politics. And I'm not going to get political, but if you want to listen to Dave Meltzer, listen to Dave Meltzer. If you want to listen to PW Insider, listen to PW Insider. Yeah. But the facts are the facts. How many times has Dave been wrong in the last month?
And I hear he's wrong a lot.
Yes. Because at the end of the day, Dave is angry. He's mad. WWE stopped giving him information, but then again, you spoiled the whole Royal Rumble one year.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah.
You can't do that, man.
Yeah.
So, you know, you want toxicity, you're right. We don't want it to get as bad as basketball, but I think the media did that. Just like I think the media is trying to do that in wrestling.
Yeah.
So
they definitely did that with basketball. I like shows like First Take, Undisputed. They got this whole thing with basketball started. I can definitely agree with that. And I kind of think with the IWC, another example is Jey Uso. Like
that was never.
Everybody wanted him to win the title, and then when he finally won, everybody was mad that he lost, that he beat Gunther.
But that was also never going to be a long title reign.
Yeah.
Did you ever think that Jey was going to have a Cody Rhodes run? No.
At the longest, I thought at least up to SummerSlam.
Right. But remember, this is wrestling. This is every single week.
Yeah.
You know, okay. I'm going to compare Jey Uso to Stone Cold Steve Austin. Follow me for a minute here. Just 1 second. Do you not realize that Stone Cold became the GOAT in less than 3.5 years?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But
and I have him as my GOAT for pro wrestling.
Right.
That's my thinking.
Right. But I mean, think about it. That was 3.5 years, maybe, at best.
Yeah.
And he was only Stone Cold for maybe a year tops. We get so much wrestling because it's every week that when you think about it, Jey had the belt, what was it, like 70 some days, 60 some days?
I think it was actually like 50 days.
Okay, so 50 days. But 50 days, we'll round it up, 2 months, 60 days, that's 8 weeks. Mm-hmm. He was on TV a lot.
Yeah.
But Jey was a character that to establish him to work with the main event talent, they gave him what he had earned being the guy who clearly the audience wanted. To your point.
Yeah. Yep.
So, you can get mad about, look, Rikishi, that's his dad. You can get mad about that all you want.
Right.
I always compare it to, Kobe's daughters. If Kobe's the GOAT in their mind, who am I to take that away from his beautiful girls? Yep. Who am I to take that away?
Right.
I don't think anybody's going to have that conversation legitimately. In fairness to Kobe.
Yeah.
But in fairness to Jey Uso, you people wanted this. You people bought the merch. You watched the TV. The ratings were up when he was on television.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of like.
But he was never going to get a long reign. Because Gunther is still the more established star. He's still the bigger name. And he's still the guy that at the end of the day is going to make more money for the company. It's just a fact.
Yeah. And I just think his skills in the ring, man. He they don't call him the ring general for nothing.
He's so good, man. He's so good.
Definitely. So this is our last question, of course. The last couple of weeks, um, on Raw, it's been Goldberg versus Gunther.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna give my opinion on what I feel about Goldberg returning. I think it's cool. I think when me growing up watching Goldberg and just hearing the music, hearing the entrance, you get that excitement as a fan. You know what I'm saying?
Did you hear the pop on Raw?
Yeah, yeah, big pop. Big
Nobody seemed to care that he was Oldberg at that point, did they?
right. Right.
Nobody cared in that moment, did they?
Yeah.
The live
But
audience will always overdo the IWC.
definitely, definitely. But it's that other side of me that is just like I don't want to see him at almost 60 years old trying to get back in the ring. And then you get in the ring with Gunther. Gunther is about to like hurt this dude. You know what I'm
Okay,
saying?
okay, so let me ask you this. Okay? Do you think that Goldberg, with everything he's been his whole career, do you think he's going to be one of those veterans who's going to get in the ring and he's going to ask Gunther not to hit him hard?
Oh no. He gonna tell Gunther to give him everything he got.
Okay, so Jesse is a Goldberg hater. He has never liked him. He will go on 20-minute rants about how much he hates him. He thinks he's one of the worst attractions that ever got big in the business. Like, whatever. But you just painted the picture. This is not going to be a 20-minute classic.
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, Shawn left, and how many years do you think he had left physically? Probably could have done it 2 or 3 more years.
Mm-hmm.
But that's 2 or 3 more years, basketball conversation. Dwight Howard, he's dominating in, Thailand, but would he be dominating in the NBA? Older body, injuries, younger guys. I think that Goldberg is going to go out in what is a proper way for a legend. What is the proper way for Goldberg to go out? Get in, get to the highlights, get out. It's not like Goldberg's known for 20-minute classics. That was never Goldberg.
Yeah.
I think that you have every right to not want to see him at 60, but I think that because this is a place that is run by professionals, former talent in DX,
Mm-hmm.
Bill is going to look like the best version of what he can be right now.
Yeah.
They're not going to let him win because they're not going to let the title just be vacant and live in, the ether. But he's going to go out there. He's going to have the highlights. He's going to get a spear or two in, and he's going to be out.
Yeah.
I think if you can get 7.5 minutes out of this, and you just pure physicality, and the guys just look like mincemeat when it's over. I think whether you have enjoyed him beating the Fiend or not, which no one did, we all can agree on that. I think it's the perfect way to go. It's a big physical guy. It's a top guy right now. It's a bad guy who likes to be a bad guy.
Yeah.
And then it's the ultimate good guy.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's not going to go 15 minutes. It's going to go 15 minutes with entrances because he's going to have to walk his old ass out there.
Right.
But
Right.
I've listened to Jim Cornette talk about it. I've listened to my friends talk about it. I've listened to as many people as I can. Okay, he wants one more match. I think he's earned that much.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're Jesse, who never liked him, always thought he was a stain on the wrestling business, whatever. I mean, I get where there's the tug of war with you, man. I got the same thing, but it's going to be 7 to 8 minutes. It's not going to be a half hour.
Yeah.
Give me the highlights, walk out, put your arm up, and go watch your kid be a star. I don't know.
I will say this, and this is just a bold prediction. I don't think this. I think Gunther's going to win, but I am going to make a bold prediction. If they decide to have Goldberg win this match, because for some reason I feel like he's in Atlanta. This is his last match. I just don't see him getting beat. If he does somehow beat Gunther, that's when we'll see a Seth Rollins cash in. And then going into SummerSlam, if Cody wins the King of the Ring, which I think he's going to, and he wrestles Cena, I think we see Seth Rollins versus Gunther at SummerSlam, and that's the transition Gunther makes, turning into a babyface. That's just something that I thought about, and it's WWE. They've done crazier things, stranger things, and I mean, we saw Goldberg beat Brock Lesnar in like less than 10 seconds, like less than a minute. So, I mean, if we saw that, I mean, anything's possible with him possibly beating Gunther.
I think that whether or not people like this version or iteration of what Seth is doing, I think that Seth is a company guy. That hasn't always worked out for him, and we've chronicled that on our show. But I don't think that Seth is ready yet. I think that Seth, much like, because I mean, okay, we can all agree this is Evolution 2.0, right? We can all kind of agree on that.
Yeah.
But remember, Evolution was started and was there for not a long time, but was there for a bit before Triple H was getting what he wanted out of it.
Yeah.
Which was the world title.
Yeah.
And now that Seth has a guarantee, let me throw this at you. What if he holds on to the briefcase longer and it's all part of a master plan to pretend that Braun and Bronson are just, digging into him more? What if it's a psychological thing with Seth? What if maybe Seth is like, I can really make these guys believe in me before becoming the champion? And then, because, what's always been interesting about Seth, and this is kind of a combination of modern Seth and the Messiah gimmick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To
get them to blindly follow you, Seth needs the belt, but does he?
Right.
I think Seth wins the belt at a time where those two look up at him, where right now they're kind of looking at him because they know Seth's the guy.
Yeah.
But I don't think Seth starts to cash in until you start to see Paul alone with Braun Breaker more.
Yeah, because he has been coming to the ring with Braun Breaker a lot, and
Right.
he was definitely with him in that game, in that match against Penta.
Yeah.
Raw.
Another one of my favorite guys in the world, by the way. That Penta's like, oh God, I love that man.
Isn't it crazy how all these guys that left AEW to go to WWE, they seem like bigger stars in WWE than they were in AEW?
But let me ask you this. Rey Mysterio's hurt again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who's your top luchador?
I would have to say probably Penta.
No, it's still Rey Mysterio. But Rey's not there. Penta is one of the nicest, coolest, chill guys in the world. But he has another aura about him where he's just himself.
Yeah.
And I think that resonates with people. And I think all WWE needed to do was say, look, I love Lucha Libre. I love AEW high flying style. I love all of it. I can watch car wrecks for hours on end. But Penta's not a traditional luchador.
Yeah.
He's a physical luchador.
Yeah.
You know? And when he was teaming with his brother, he was with his friends. He was with the people that he wrestled for years on the indie circuit. So everybody is like, let's go out and let's fly around. That's great. Triple H brings him in and says, I know you can, but what if we scaled it back a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Remember, who's the one guy that Gunther said, I don't want to take a chop from? This is Gunther we're talking about. That's Penta.
Yeah, Penta. Okay.
That's Penta. So this dude will hit a mother effer with his and he'll make the guy that we revere for chops afraid. What does that tell you?
Yeah.
You know, I don't even want to put it on Tony Khan's bad booking. Now I have in the past, and that's fine. I'll stand by what I said. But what if it's just Penta's not the only guy doing it anymore?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or actually, I should say, what if he's the only guy being the masked, hard-hitting luchador?
Yeah, because it really, outside of Penta, is nobody that I could really think of. Everybody just seemed like they more just, high flyers.
Yeah, and his brother is the best on-the-ropes wrestler in the world.
Yeah.
So, he doesn't do what his brother does. That's why they're separate right now. You don't need them as a tag team.
Yeah. You think they'll ever eventually bring them together as a tag team?
Oh, absolutely. 100%, because that's why they wanted them in the first place.
Yeah.
And then all the drama happened. We've said this on our show. Think about this for a second, because I don't think anyone said this but us. The Motor City Machine Guns got the Lucha Brothers run.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Because they came in as a tag team.
Yeah, yeah.
Which they needed.
Yeah, and the Motor City Machine Guns, they done had a pretty good run on SmackDown so far. They were able to win the titles, and yeah, I think whenever they do the draft, I think we could possibly see Penta and Ray Phoenix on the same show together, and you automatically got to put these guys together as a tag team. You even got to put the championships on them at this point.
Yeah, and it's funny because people get a weird idea of those two that they can't work American style together, and I think Jim was probably the biggest hater on that. But Jim never saw them wrestle, or Penta, I should say. He never saw him wrestle in TNA.
Okay.
Penta wrestles American. He just didn't do it in AEW because no one asked him to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Penta's a former world champion in Impact.
Wow. Yeah, I don't even think I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, Penta's a former TNA World Heavyweight Champion.
Was it a long run or was it a short run?
This is Jesse's wheelhouse mostly, but it was a couple of months there.
Okay.
It was a couple of months of TV. Obviously, they taped the show.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, Penta can work American style. Penta can slow it down and be Penta.
That must have been the TNA when they left like Spike TV and they was on
that was Destination America. That was Pop TV.
Yeah.
That was Pop TV, which by the way used to be the TV Guide channel.
Yeah. Because they were on a couple of channels. I know it was Spike TV.
Destination America,
yeah. Because it was like, if you didn't have a certain TV package, you wasn't getting Destination America. I
had to switch. I had to switch from my parents' cable to the local cable.
Wow.
To watch TNA. That's what I had to do.
Yeah, and because right now they on Axis, and I've been hearing that they eventually want to get a new TV deal to be on a better station to basically have a broader
Well,
audience.
it's interesting because with the talent exchange going on in WWE, you got Trick over there, you got Joe coming back and forth. It's really funny to me because everyone wants to say that they're trying to buy TNA.
That's what I keep hearing. Yeah,
But
yeah,
here's the thing. Number one, when they acquired WWE, TKO made a deal that said they would not buy another wrestling company for X number of years. Now, that is probably not true anymore because they bought AAA.
yeah, yeah,
But remember, I said this on our show. Everybody wants to pretend that they bought it to control it. That means AAA was for sale.
mm-hmm.
You can't buy something if it ain't for sale.
True. That's true.
So, my question about that is, I think, yeah. So the people that own TNA, Anthem, if WWE wanted a wrestling company, why don't they own TNA but they own AAA?
That makes sense. That definitely
They
makes
they don't they don't need another American company right now.
nah, I
Be,
don't think so.
because what people don't realize is AAA. Because I watch AAA, and
Oh,
it's a circus. Like it's something, man. Like I mean, you think there's chaos in like CZW, and in like all those other hardcore type shows, deathmatch. Like I mean, you think that's crazy? Go
yeah,
watch a AAA show and tell me that ain't the craziest thing you ever saw. But they're not rewriting AAA television.
okay.
Jeremy Borash is is their eyes and ears because they own it. You
Yeah,
want to make sure that it's working.
yeah,
But Jeremy's not going in the room and rewriting AAA television every week.
right.
AAA is still AAA, at least as far as the TV's been concerned.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, again, Dave Meltzer can say till he's blue in the face, WWE eventually wants to buy TNA. Do people not realize that WWE was sold for $9.3 billion to TKO? Okay?
Woo.
But now think about this. The first WrestleMania that they did under the TKO banner, they made over $1 billion.
Yeah. And which
This
one?
WrestleMania, they're still counting the money.
Yeah, yeah,
They've had the largest gates they've ever done, despite how expensive those tickets are, and they're expensive. My wife has paid for some very nice tickets to a show. Let me tell you. But they're still selling out.
yeah, yeah.
There's actually an argument to be made. They've already made their money back on WWE.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, well, like you said, the way these ticket prices are, and even some of the merchandise that went up. Like I done looked at the championship belts. The championship belts used to be anywhere from 350 to 500. Them
Yeah.
boys like 600 now.
And by the way, do you know why they're 600? Because somebody's gonna buy them.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Remember how everybody said F you Nintendo for how expensive you're making the Switch 2?
yeah.
They still sold out.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Everybody cried, but they still bought it.
Yup. That was just like with the PS5 when that dropped. It was like $500.
Yeah,
And when
I,
people couldn't get it,
I bought it.
people are actually spending more on the second market to get the PS5
Yep.
instead of just waiting until a store got more. Like people are paying like $900,
Yeah.
$1,200. And a lot of times when they were buying it, they didn't even come with no games or no controllers or nothing. It was just the one controller in the console.
So the biggest band in the world right now is a band called Sleep Token. I don't know if you've heard about them.
Uh-uh.
Okay, so they're the biggest band in the world right now. They just put out their new album. It went number one. They've sold out festivals all over Europe. They have a sold out arena tour starting up here in September in the US. They're from the UK.
Mm-hmm.
They put their tickets up for sale, sold out in 2 weeks.
Ooh.
Now, that's 18 basketball arenas. They're at the Target Center here in Minnesota in October.
Man.
They used dynamic ticket pricing. Now, what that is they sold their tickets on Ticketmaster, right?
Mm-hmm.
But by doing dynamic ticket sales, the tickets were slightly more expensive, but it stopped scalping. And you want to know why?
Why's that?
Because the only way to give your ticket away is to sell it back to Ticketmaster for what you bought it for.
Wow. That's smart.
So the thing about ticket sales are somebody's going to buy them. There's always going to be people who are saving up for these tickets. I mean, yes, I understand WrestleMania, $20,000 to get up there on those seats. Do people not realize it's been that way for 10 years?
Yeah, that's true.
Do people not realize what it? I mean, like you and I both know this. Do you really think the first 40 rows of an LA Lakers game are fans?
Oh yeah, that's all celebrities.
Yeah, man, they're there for
ballers, rich people, politicians,
right.
Everybody.
Yeah. If you want tickets to go down, man, you got to find a way to get everybody to just not go to the show.
Yeah, that's true.
Then they'll change the ticket pricing. So back to my point that I was getting to. If they've already paid off WWE, let's just think that hypothetical for a second, right? Mm-hmm. They're still making money off of UFC. They bought a bull riding company.
Yeah.
Why would they not own TNA right now?
That's true.
You really think TNA is worth what it is? I mean, seriously, how much? Oh, okay. Let me throw you this for a second. Tony Khan paid whatever he paid for Ring of Honor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the $40 million, that was a crazy internet rumor that everybody ran with, including us for a little while. But let's say he bought it for, $10 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had no wrestlers. They had no TV. They had no TV production crew. They had a couple office people and the library. If that's worth $10 million, $10 million. What do you think a company with a library, active television, active traveling schedule, active pay-per-view, a full roster, and a television crew, what do you think that's worth?
Yeah.
But WWE can pay it, and so can TKO.
Yep.
They don't want TNA wrestling. But this whole exchange, you were talking about the IWC and the media and all this stuff. What would you say if the number one pick in tonight's NBA draft, which I believe is going on here at some
it's
point.
already on.
Yeah. What do you think would happen if Cooper Flagg did what the Spurs used to do with their first round picks? What if he played in Europe for 2 years after getting drafted?
That'd be interesting because I know they used to do that with a lot of them, especially a lot of those foreign players.
But that's what New Japan does. The guys come up through the dojo, and then when they graduate from the dojo, they get sent away. They get told to go to Mexico. They get told to go to WWE. They get told to go to America. Run the circuit. Learn everything you can. Okada talked about this years ago. His drop kick is from Mexico. That's where he learned how to do a drop kick.
Wow.
So, why not treat it like a sport? Treat it like a business.
Yeah.
That's what Nick Khan wants to do.
Yeah.
If I got 60 wrestlers not working for me, but hey, Triple H has a plan for them, okay. What's the worst thing in sports? Sitting around doing nothing. Go wrestle. Go wrestle in TNA.
Yeah.
And And like what's TNA gonna say? No, don't give us somebody whose name has already been on national television.
Right.
They ain't got that kind of clout.
Exactly.
And that's just business, man.
Yeah.
And that's the way WWE looks at it. They brought in a couple of guys. They sent over a couple of girls. They were all lower card guys and gals.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone got treated with respect. Everyone had a good time. Now let's give you our base main event guy. Roman Reigns, CM Punk, John Cena, Cody Rhodes. They were never going to go to TNA.
Oh yeah, no.
It was never going to happen. AJ Styles might, but if you remember, they wanted him to take, I think it was like a 60 to 70% pay cut last time he was there.
Oh, over at TNA?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Go listen to his interview with Chris Van Vliet. They wanted to cut his pay by over half.
Wow.
That's the TNA GOAT right there.
Yeah.
So if that's not the same people in charge of TNA, which it's not, why would they say no to Trick Williams being their champion? Why would they say no to that?
Yeah.
Joe's hurt. We all know that. He's got to go get stitched up.
Yeah.
Trick is going to come in. Trick's going to continue his development. Because remember, Trick and Mello, that's Triple H and Shawn Michaels for the next 10 years. That's going to happen again.
Yeah.
Mello's just working on main roster. And yeah, he's taking a lot of L's. But who's he taking L's to? Main event guys.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be different if he was losing to like Apollo Crews or something like that.
Exactly. He's gonna be fine when he finally gets that mic in his hands and he proves who he was in NXT.
Yeah.
And Trick, size, agility, ability, mic skill, what doesn't Trick Williams have?
Right.
But the problem that I want to point out here, and I'm sorry if I'm going a little long on this, but you've got Randy Orton, you've got Cody Rhodes, you got Seth Rollins, you got all these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone thinks Carmelo is getting buried.
Yeah, that's all I keep hearing everybody.
But he's not bigger than those guys.
Yeah.
So there's no point in him beating them. Losing to them, he's on par with them. Remember, okay, so let's look at Carmelo Hayes' main roster, right? Everyone thinks this is buried, right?
Mm-hmm.
Number 1 overall draft pick, or like 3rd overall the SmackDown, for whatever.
Yeah.
His first night on SmackDown, he was in the ring with Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, that's true. He done lost to Andrade. He done lost to Randy Orton.
But Andrade was 7.
Yeah.
That was just go out there and wrestle.
Mm-hmm.
He's interacting with top guys. He's wrestling with some of the best workers. Trick is in TNA being a heel, out wrestling people because there's no room for Trick. And that's not a slight on Trick Williams.
Hey, but I actually like that him being in TNA right now.
Oh, it's great.
Because all it's going to do is, like you said, develop his character.
Well, not only that, but where is the TNA Heavyweight Championship right now? Every other Tuesday, it is on syndicated television.
Yep.
I mean, how is that a bad thing?
Yeah. So it's kind of a good thing for TNA because it's like people are watching NXT and then they like, okay, what's this belt? You know what I'm saying? People that might not be on the TNA, like this is NXT giving them that exposure. That they need.
Have you also noticed they'll drop it on commentary? They're putting TNA results in NXT tapings.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, not a shot at the other guys, but the other guys who always feature other wrestlers from other companies, umpteenth number of championships. Not against it. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But quick question. If I have the Stardom champion on my television on Dynamite, what happened on the last Stardom?
Right. Nobody know.
15 seconds.
Yeah.
15 seconds. Excalibur. I know people don't necessarily love Excalibur. I enjoy him. I think he's a good commentator. I loved him in PWG. But like 15 seconds to rattle off what happened in Stardom when the Stardom champion is in your ring.
Yeah.
TNA films things.
Yeah.
They're filmed the next 2-3 months out. So everybody's working the indies or at home.
Yep.
But where's the belt?
Right.
It's on Tuesdays every week.
Yeah. You're right.
They don't want to buy it. There's no point.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so either.
It doesn't make any sense why you would buy it. It's just more work.
Yeah.
You got a $9.3 billion investment over here. Why would you make another one?
You're right. That is true.
And remember, like I said, AAA, they're not running AAA. They just own it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're the good NFL owner. They're just sitting back and letting the GM do his job.
Yeah.
But Triple H is not up till 4 a.m. calling Conan and booking AAA.
Right.
That ain't happening.
They might throw a little money to them, if they need to sign a couple of wrestlers or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was one of the main things that people was worried about was things that AAA gonna change. And they said that they everything is pretty much the same.
What you saw at Worlds Collide is merely a taste of what AAA is.
Oh yeah, definitely. I can believe that.
It's funny to me, but do you actually know when Mr. Iguana debuted for AAA?
I'm not sure, but it was probably what 5, anywhere between 5-10 years ago.
2009.
Wow.
Or at least that's when he debuted.
Wow.
That's when he debuted as a wrestler. So you do the math. He's almost 20 years as Mr. Iguana.
Yeah. Yeah, and they loved him at Worlds Collide, and I hear that they supposed to be trying to bring him up to the main roster or NXT, one of the two.
Yeah. Yeah, no. But I mean, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, like you said, they'll throw money and they'll hand pick and cherry pick a couple of guys, and they'll bring them in, and that's great. But they don't want to all of a sudden control what AAA does on a weekly basis.
Right. Gotcha. Zach, man, I appreciate you stopping by, coming on the show. We having a great wrestling discussion. Before we get out of here, do you want to tell the viewers out there where they can find you and 13 Cards Subject to Change?
Yes, I do. But first and foremost, I want to thank you, Mike. This was an absolute pleasure. This was great. To some of the people out there viewing, I'm sorry we didn't get to the whole card of Night of Champions. But what I love about shows like this is it sparks a bunch of different conversations, and you go with the flow. So first and foremost, from us over at 13 Cards, hopefully, maybe you'll want to have Leroy and Jesse on here at some point as well. But we'd love to have you on our show. We'll work that out at some point. But first and foremost, I want to thank you. This was a pleasure. This was an honor.
No problem.
You're fantastic, and I hope everybody supports your show. Obviously, your merch and everything's on the bottom of the screen here for me the whole time, and obviously everyone can see that. But as we get out of here, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram. We are on Apple, podcasts, stuff like that. Amazon Music, podcasts, Spotify, Podomatic, all that stuff. We do have our merch available as well. All the links are on our Facebook and everything. And like I said, every week we put out shows as best we can. We're cooking up a bunch of stuff, and we got a lot of stuff coming down the line that we're super excited about. You understand the business, can't talk about all of it, but we got a lot of stuff going on, and hopefully we can deliver for the fans who listen to us. And obviously we will be making sure that people come over to see this show, but also check you out every week and everything about that. So we appreciate that.
Sweet. No problem. Once again, thank you for being a guest. Shout out to you Leroy, Jesse, and the whole 13 card subject to change brand. Much success to you guys, and just want to thank everybody who was watching this episode on YouTube and Facebook. Of course, you can follow Wrestling from the 313 on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Sometimes I'm on Twitter, but not too much. But I still have some stuff on there, so you can follow that. And of course, YouTube. YouTube has been so good to me this past year. We are we getting close to 6,300 subscribers. We're getting close to 3 million views. So it's just keep them coming. We on the road to 10,000. I'm definitely trying to get to that 10,000 subscriber mark. Make sure you watch all the old episodes, the live streamings, the episodes that I started 2 years ago that I got recorded on the channel, and just everybody just support wrestling, support independent wrestling, support wrestling podcasters, uh, support your local promotions wherever you from, and just like I said, as Joe Moreau would say, just shut up and enjoy wrestling. That's all you got to do. So, from my guest Zach, I am your boy Mike D. I will be back next week for another episode on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, and I'll see you later. We out. Zach B, Mike D. Peace.